and welcome to the House of Hammer. Come in, come in. Wipe your feet, please. You can hang your coats and hats there if you wish, and your tiara. That's a new one. So, as you may have noticed since the beginning of 2022, we've been firmly ensconced in the warm embrace of 1950. Hammer started off the year rather solidly with The Man in Black and Room to Let, and then diverged somewhat into trying to find their feet with comedy with Someone at the Door, What the Butler Saw, and A Lady Craved Excitement. And let's be honest here, to borrow a phrase from my co-host Adam, we really have had enough excitement for now. Thankfully, what? Who said that? No, come on. Look, this goes no further until someone holds their hands up. Oh, it was you. You're the one that mumbled What the Butler Saw wasn't that bad. Come on, out. We will have none of that sort of rabble-rousing around here. Mush, you roustabout. Sorry about that. My sincere apologies. I'm sorry? No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, people are allowed their opinions, just not when they're wrong. Right, where was I? Oh yes. Thankfully, we've now gone into 1951, and frankly, Hammer have a lot to do to convince us that by this point, they actually know what the they're doing. And boy howdy, no spoilers just yet, but this is a tale well worth listening to. So, follow me to room number 19 and join us in opening the Rossiter Case. Now, there's going to be no messing around with this one. No skits, no sound effects, no bottom references, and definitely no cats. Now, Ingrid, I'm sorry. Look, go play with Ben. Okay. Who am I trying to kid? There will be all of those things. But I think the most important thing to point out about 1951's The Rossiter Case, to all our delight, but mostly Kev's, we're back in the pub! But before we get there, let's talk about the film, shall we? So, the Rossiter Case starts in the pub. All right. It starts in the... No, it starts in the you-know-where. But this is just the first of many, many delights. This is a dark little tale of adultery, deceit, and getting together to sing Bar Bar Black Sheep around the piano. Yeah, really. The Rossiter Case spins the yarn of Peter Rossiter, played by Clement McCallan, who is having an affair with Honor, played by Sheila Burrell. Murky enough already, you may think, but it's further confounded by the fact that Honor is the sister-in-law of Peter's wife, Liz, with Helen Schindler filling this role.
A damn fool thing to do.
What?
In a parcel like that.
I thought it was very nice of me.
You were deliberately enjoying yourself at the expense of Liz, and I won't have it.
Well, after tomorrow you won't have to, will you?
What do you mean after tomorrow?
You said you couldn't ask her for a divorce while she was ill. Well, she's going to get better. Isn't she?
But I can't tell her just like that. Be reasonable.
You mean you're not going to tell her at all?
Come on, I'll take it down to the cottage.
No. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, darling.
For heaven's sake.
As you can hear, Peter is struggling somewhat with his deception, but even more so because Liz is an invalid, almost permanently wheelchair or bedbound. However, in a little subterfuge of her own, Liz has convinced their doctor, Sir James, played by Frederick Lester, to play along with the lie that she's on the mend. A placebo for herself, or does Liz know more than she's letting on?
Tell me the truth, please, about myself, but please give the others a little hope. Oh, I'm sure you usually tell the patients there's a chance in the poor wretched family that it's hopeless. But you see, I'm used to it. I'm able to bear it. But it's awful for them. If you could give them just a little hope this time. They do so many unpleasant things for me. If you could lighten their burden, if it's only in their thoughts, they'd be so happy. I'd be so happy. I'd pretend I was getting better. I've been rehearsing that speech ever since Ben told me you were coming down. Could I have my hanky, please? Somewhere in here. I don't expect I shall cry. I'm against crying. I suppose you have a lot of troublesome women to deal with, haven't you?
If you don't mind.
No, thank you. It's all right. I shan't need it.
Good.
Put you in a fix, haven't I? I'm sorry. But please tell the others there's a chance. You see, I want to keep my husband a little longer.
Where is your husband?
I don't know. He said he'd be here some time ago.
Peter is now in even more of a quandary. Not only is his spouse getting better, but Honor is about to drop the ultimate bombshell.
Hello, darling.
Hello. What was Ben doing here?
I'll tell you in a minute. I've just been invited up to your residence.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
What do you
I
mean?
thought you said it was Agnes's afternoon off.
So it was.
Not only Agnes, Alice as well. Couldn't have arranged things better.
Oh, darling, please don't be like that. It's not my fault if this takes us into our head to send Alice up with a note, is it?
What was Ben doing here?
What's the matter? Afraid of having another invalid on your hands? No, darling, I didn't mean that. I don't know what's the matter with me. I never used to be like this, did I? Did I?
It's no good, Honor. It's got to stop.
It can't.
It's going to. I'm sick of all this lying and deceit.
Because she's going to get better, isn't it? Because Liz is going to get better. I'm no use to her anymore, that's it, isn't it?
No. I've thought about this for a long time. I'm sorry, but there it is. We shall all be happier.
Who's all?
You'll be happier, too, in the end.
The conceit.
It's not conceit at all. You said just now you didn't know why you were like this. Well, I'm just trying to tell you, that's all. You hate yourself. We both hate ourselves for what we're doing, and the longer we go on, the more we shall hate each other. Why not stop now while we can still remember the pleasant things and not take it out on each other?
That's not it. Not in my case, it isn't. That's not why I'm...
Torturing ourselves and everybody else, making lies the only way of living. I lie to Liz and Marty lies for me, and we'll go crazy. That remark of yours about not wanting another invalid on my hands, that wasn't you. Was it?
No. That's what I said. I usedn't to be like this, but Benedict says you often get like it in my condition. I'm going to have a baby. I suppose this is where we'll have to tell the truth for once. Will you tell it, or shall I?
You're lying.
Will you tell Liz, or shall I?
Yikes. So, Peter is in some seriously deep doo-doo. Does he add a broken heart to Liz's broken body, or does he end things with honour, once and for all? We head slightly earlier than normal to the round table. Why will become very apparent early on. Joining myself, as usual, are my wonderful and constantly surprisingly sexy co-hosts, Adam Roach, Ben Taylorson, and Kev Moore.
Right, the Rossiter Case, chaps. Doesn't it start exactly how it means to go on? We start off in a pub.
Hi, Hazel.
Hi, Hazel.
Cheers.
Hi, Hazel.
Delightful. I am so... And this is... mate, it's a proper pub.
It's a proper English country pub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can tell it's actually a real one as well. It's not just some casually dressed cupboard.
That should be on the Hammer bingo card, I think. It should be a pub, and there should be an actual pub space on there as well.
Yeah.
Some of them are just Del Boy's bar.
It's going to be the biggest. It's going to be the biggest bingo card ever. But yeah, no, it's wonderful to be back in a pub. I was delighted the second this film started. I really was.
Yeah, it was great as well because you are introduced to two main characters pretty quickly. You know, you're introduced to James Ferguson, who is the doctor that's coming to see Mrs. Rossiter and has lost his way. And then you're going to get directions from Honor, the aptly named Honor, or not.
Ooh, controversial.
First 15 minutes of this film, if you go into it without having read any of the synopses or anything available online, which I thoroughly recommend that you do, it's quite confusing actually for the first 10-15 minutes, and I don't mind admitting that I didn't really understand what was going on, but I think that's actually to the film's credit, because it's one of those movies that isn't intentionally trying to confuse you for the sake of making itself look cleverer than it is. It's drip feeding you information that you can piece together nicely after 15-20 minutes and think, oh, this is what's happening, and this is the central sort of context of the film, and this is the relationship that we know about that not everyone knows about, and this is the real sort of controversy or driving force behind the film. And I was gripped from minute one in this film, even when I didn't know what was going on. And it's not often you can say that about a film where you think, oh, I'm quite confused for the first opening few minutes, and yet I'm still gripped.
It's interesting you should say that, actually. I'm with you totally, but I watch a ton of these old films from the 40s and 50s, and there are few that are as well sketched out in the first act as this one. And I did think to myself, wow, this is very unpatronizing. Usually it's, oh, you're a detective, are you? Yes, I'm a detective, I am, and I'm here to investigate the crime. What crime? Blah, blah. It's like that. It's like so spelled out for you. The Rossiter Case is a very adult film in the way that it just says, here are some characters, and they're instantly themselves. They don't have to spell out who they are to the audience. It all comes across in the performance and through the script. And I totally get exactly where you're coming from, because the first 15 minutes you kind of like, who is everyone, and then suddenly something snaps about 15 minutes in, and you go, I know who the doctor is, I know why he's there, I can see that he sees duplicity among this character and this character, and when certain people pop their heads back in, it's almost like the film has subliminally addressed every single character, because 15 minutes in, when Honor pops up at dinner party, you go, whoa, this is going to be a dark moment, even though you've only spent like 45 seconds in her company. It's a very good film. Sorry, I'm not going to put my cards on the table right away, even though I'm struggling to contain my excitement about this film. But I do get what you're saying about the first act. I would say that it plays against convention. 1951 films weren't usually this smart and this savvy and this unpatronizing to their audience.
So what you're saying is it's basically a 1950s version of The Wire.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was saying. Yeah. No, I agree with that completely. I've got to say, with what you said there, Adam, what I will disagree with slightly is the feeling of being gripped right at the very beginning. Get past my utter jubilation of being back in the pub. It was getting to the point of going, okay, right, so there are people, they're in a pub. Okay, fair enough. As Ben said, I didn't know what was going on either. But on the second viewing, again, we've said this before, on a second viewing, it's so helpful to realise that three of the people in that pub, two on purpose, one kind of by accident. So you meet Peter and you meet Honor. Great. Two main characters, fantastic. And then you meet Sir James kind of by accident. And then when the reveal comes later on of why he's there, fantastic. It's utterly brilliant. And to watch it again on the second viewing and the third viewing, actually, now I think about it, it just fulfilled that even more. But something else I wanted to pick up on what you said there was, isn't it so refreshing to not be treated like a child anymore? You know what I mean? We've just had the ridiculous nature slapstick farce of someone at the door and what the butler saw, and I was just getting sick of that. The lady craved excitement, pushed it up a little bit because it was a little bit more intelligent, but then suddenly we're out of Comedyville. We're out of it now. We're in Darkville. We're in Darktown. And it was just so refreshing after those last three films to suddenly go, oh crap! Right, okay, we're in serious place. We're in serious town. We're in serious. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but it's just lovely to suddenly be treated like an adult who can understand a decent plot and complex characters. I loved it.
Well, you were saying about them being more adult, to the point where you actually are introduced to them in a very casual way in the pub, and you've got Honor playing darts.
I can honestly say I wish I knew more about darts.
Me too, yeah.
I think
wish
we've got exactly the guy to show us all about darts.
It's funny you should say that.
Jockey Wilson's here.
Bully for you, Ben.
For centuries, there's nothing us Brits have enjoyed more than the simple pleasure of going to the pub for a few drinks and a fight. But for some, there's even more to the whole pub experience than downing 8 pints of snakebite, than inviting fellow patrons out into the car park for some pushing, shoving and general windmilling, owing to controversial views on the works of Lionel Richie or the best ever Crystal Palace starting 11. No, others seek their merriment in the form of pub games to accompany a half of bitter and a pickled egg. From years of my own, selfless pub-based research, I know firsthand there's an awful lot of pub games I could waffle on about. But, as it's the one featured in the Rossiter Case, let's stick to darts. The amateur hurling of sharpened projectiles by drunkards across a room full of pie-eyed inebriates. As with many pub games, the origin of darts lies in what was originally an outdoor game brought indoors so as to be able to carry on with it in all weathers and be closer to the bar, obviously. Originating in 14th century England as a military pastime, bored soldiers would sit in the trenches and compete by throwing spearheads and other sharp objects at the bottom of upturned wine casks. As the burgeoning game grew in popularity, specific darting targets were created using sections of tree trunks. The circular shape and concentric rings gave rise to the standard dartboard pattern we see in use today, but it wasn't until 1896 that a carpenter from Lancashire named Brian Gamlin invented the modern number system, and in effect, the modern game itself. For those unfamiliar with darts, the scoring system divides the board up into 20 sections, each scoring between 1 and, 20, with double and triple scores possible if you land your arrow in special subsections of the numbered segment. You get 50 points if you hit the circle in the middle, known as the bullseye, and 25 if you hit the larger ring just outside, called the outer bull. Still with me? Good. Now, arguably the most common or well-known version of the game of darts involves reducing a fixed score, commonly 301 or 501, to 0, also called checking out, with the final dart landing in either the bullseye or a double segment to win. But, dear listener, the kind of intensive research that you've come to expect and appreciate within the walls of the House of Hammer has revealed that darts is a game that comes in many wondrous varieties. I've chosen 10 of these to have a quick look at, so without further ado, let's head over to Benny's prize board. In 1. First up, round the clock. The object of this game is to hit each numbered section sequentially from 1 to 20, followed by the bullseye. I was taught to play this at a very young age by my grandma, who had a dartboard in her coal house. The room was quite small, so you always risked the dart ricocheting off the wires of the board and coming straight back at you. Kept you on your toes, I can tell you. In 2. Next up is Killer. Sadly, or perhaps happily, depending on your point of view, this is not quite as dramatic as it first sounds. It does not involve hurling darts at each other, but instead is a knockout game for 2 or more players. Initially, each player throws a dart at the board with their wrong or non-dominant hand to obtain their number. I bet that can be quite entertaining after a few beverages, with the occasional dart sailing past the board entirely and into the gents' toilets. Anyway, once everyone has a number, each player then takes it in turn to get their number 5 times, and once a person has reached 5, they become the killer. This means they can aim for other people's numbers, taking a point off them each time they hit it. If the person gets down to 0, they're out. In 3. Cricket. The first of many darts games seemingly pretending to be other sports, but actually just being darts. It doesn't involve a bat, or a ball, or stumps, or a man at a deep, silly, fine mid-off, or similar. It involves darts, and a board, and has bought all to do with cricket. In fact, it involves hitting the numbers 15 to 20, and the bullseye, on a traditional darts board multiple times to win. How's that? In 4. 4 indeed, because it's dart golf. And to be fair, this is far more exciting than cricket darts, as it's actually a bit like golf. Kind of. Why? How? Well, it can be played on a non-standard board that resembles a plan of a golf course, with coloured areas representing individual holes. The player's score is then determined by where in the area defining the hole the dart lands. In general, if the player lands closer to the hole, they'll have a better score. Tremendous! Eagles all round. In 5. As far as I can tell, the darting game of fives can be played in two different ways. Either on a traditional darts board, where all scores must be divisional by 5 in order for them to count, or on a special board. This special board has fewer, larger segments, all numbered 5, 10, 15 or 20. Frankly, at a glance, it looks like a beginner's or kid's version of darts, one of those ones you get down the market accompanied by a set of Velcro darts. But I should probably watch what I'm saying, as fives is apparently a darting favourite in numerous East End London drinking pits, where they apparently stand a bit further away from the board than in the traditional game so as to make it a bit more challenging. Again, what could possibly go wrong? In 6. Dart ball, like a futuristic game of rollerball but with darts. Actually, that's not true at all. It uses baseball-like rules and scoring and gets extra merit for being yet another variation that uses a funny board. And to add to the thrill, players may pitch their darts, overhand or underhand, depending on the league rules, from a pitcher's line that's 25 feet away from the board. I can only speak for myself when I say, ask me to attempt to chuck a dart underhand at a small board from 25 feet away after I've had a few pints, there is likely to be trouble. In 7. Now let's take the action outside for some lawn darts. All the fun of Olympic javelin in someone's moderately sized suburban garden. Basically, in lawn darts, you put a target on the ground and hoy oversized darts up in the air. The weighted nature of the lawn dart sees it plummet back down to ground. Now, a running theme of this segment has been me joking on about how dangerous a pastime darts may seem to the casual observer. In the case of lawn darts, this is borne out in facts. Thousands of injuries and several deaths have been attributed to lawn darts, and in fact, sharp-pointed darts are now banned for sale in the United States and Canada. In 8. The darts game, called rugby, is yet another sports-themed variant. It involves, doing rugby on a funny board with darts, line-outs, scrums, drop goals, all sharing a communal bath afterwards and singing dirty songs. 9. Come on, Ben, we're almost there. Our 9th variant is Shanghai, which is a 7-round game involving darts and a darts board. I'm losing the will here. And Benny's special prize! But before I check out entirely, I've saved the best until last. Combining the timeless pastimes of heavy drinking and potential projectile violence into one bizarre game, it's beer darts. The basic idea seems to be that the players sit opposite one another with a beer can at their feet and take turns throwing their dart at their opponent's can. If the dart punctures or makes contact with the can, then there are various consequences that occur. I found no details as to what consequences occur if you get a dart in the shin or the foot or similar, but the rules I did find are as follows. If a dart grazes a player's can but does not puncture it, that player must take 1 sip of beer from their own drink. If a dart punctures a player's can, then that player must drink the beer from the can down to where the hole is. If a dart goes in the mouth hole, of the can rather than the player presumably, the drink must then be completely finished. If a player hits their opponent's can with 2 turns in a row, they get their darts back for a free turn. And the first player to empty a can loses, and the opponent is crowned the winner of the round. However, the game is usually played over multiple rounds. And the final rule, my favourite rule, is that if a non-participant asks, quite understandably, what in God's name is happening here, or simply inquires as to who is winning, they have to chug a can of beer as well. Finally, a game that truly gets the spectator involved.
Brilliant then, because a double 13, where the hell would they go with that? I mean, how many cans? I couldn't even see any cans in that pub, to be honest. So we'll move on from that.
What kind of pub runs out of whiskey?
Oh, don't even start me on that. I knew you'd hate that. No.
A Shoreditch pub.
Yeah. I always like to take the challenge, see how many bars I can drink dry. But yeah, well done, Peter. We'll move on then. Gilston Park, which is the mansion.
It's a great location.
For a change, we're actually a different location. Yeah,
looks
it's
wonderful.
got a swimming pool at the back. Nice. Who wants to dive in?
What story-wise?
Oh no, just to the pool.
To the British swimming pool, not me.
I haven't got me cosy.
On the 3 days a year where you could probably go in it. Yeah. Well, what you've got created is a situation where, frankly, everyone knows that you've got these 2 sisters-in-law.
Are they?
One is
Are they sisters-in-law?
Yes.
Would you like me to go into my three-point
right,
plan
they
to
are.
explain
Let's
why
quickly
they're
let's quickly say that there are two related ladies, Liz and Honor. Most of the knowledge online says that they're sisters, but Ben has a theory that they're actually sisters-in-law.
Ben, the sisters.
She's fine. I'm perfectly
which
willing
after
to be
multiple
convinced.
watches, I agree with now. He's
Now-
right.
now-
because there's a line later in the film which 90% proves that Ben is right.
Okay, cool.
There are three factors that can prove that I'm right and everyone else is wrong. I just like
Okay, that's cool. Ben, you should definitely prove this to us later. I'm not sitting on this hill, willing to die on it, and absolutely willing to be convinced. But the main point for now,
The two women, the dark-haired, the look-alike,
okay.
they're definitely sisters.
the main point now is to set the story up for the listener, I think. So, go.
Yes. So we have these two sisters-in-law who are who one is an invalid. She's paralyzed from the neck down, and her husband is we all find out very early on in the film that her husband is having an affair with her sister-in-law. So the paralyzed lady is called Liz, and her sister-in-law is called Honor, and the husband Peter is having an affair with Honor. Whilst his wife obviously is suffering, and the opening act basically concludes with Liz having a specialist arrive from London who is going to test to see if she's getting any better from her state of paralysis, and basically she isn't, and yet she convinces the specialist to kind of agree with her lies that she is getting better, so she can tell her family because she feels that they've been through enough. And she wants to tell them that she's getting better. There's a chance that she might recover. And this is one of several heart-wrenching scenes in this film where you really feel the tension and the upset. Because the scene where she's basically begging this doctor to say to my family, please tell them I'm getting better because, they need it, I need it, we all need it. And he's sitting there in his kind of stoic, professional medical capacity, not believing it. And we don't believe it as a viewer as well. And it's heart-wrenching because she's presented as a victim in the literal sense, obviously, of the accident that's led her to being, but she's also a victim in the moral and psychological sense that everyone else knows this affair's going on, and we all assume that she doesn't know. What's borne out across the rest of the film is she's much cleverer than people are giving her credit for.
I think this film deserves a lot of credit because you have, as we said, as you said, Ben, this central conceit of this affair going on, and I do agree with you that it's a sister-in-law. I do, but it's the deception of absolutely everyone who knows, and it's heartbreaking, man. It really is, and you see Liz's pain, not just her physical pain, but her mental and emotional pain as well. And it's brutal, and you really do feel for her as well. And it because also is the fact is that Peter, her husband, the cheater, if you will, is a bit of a simp.
Peter the cheater.
Peter, thank you.
Hey!
Nicely done.
More.
Kevin Moore there, ladies and gentlemen.
In one.
There we go.
Two. Well, he's in two, isn't he?
Hey!
It's Bully's special prize.
The sister-in-law. But also, it's the fact this is a very serious point.
It's very serious.
Yeah, but also the fact is you've got Honor, right? Who is, I mean, she's despicable. I mean, of all the films we've watched, you can shrug all you want, but I reckon of all the films we've watched so far, granted, apart from sort of mass murderers or people like that, she is possibly the most despicable creature we've seen.
Yeah, she's
on screen.
She's deliciously evil.
Thank you, Kevin. That's a perfect word. She's deliciously diabolical, and there is so much manipulation and mental torture that goes on with her character throughout this runtime that I mean her performance, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but her performance is spellbinding. It's wonderful.
Fantastic.
And the more I watched it, the more I was so impressed with it. Don't get me wrong, I hated the character and I wanted her to fail, but I was blown away by Sheila Burrell's performance. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
For those of you who've been following the films along with us, Sheila Burrell plays the villain in The Man in Black from 1950 as well. She is the stepmother. She was the lady who was married to Sid James and caused his death and then tried to gaslight his daughter. She pops up again here in the villainous role. I found her sort of motivation to come from her desperation at not wanting to be alone. And I'm not saying what she does is right in any way, but I did find that there are moments when, you know, she knows she said the wrong thing to him, or, you know, she's made some comment towards the sister, whatever, that she knows is wrong, and she kind of swiftly apologizes. She's like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm turning into this awful person version of myself. So I don't think she's the worst person I've seen in a Hammer film. I must be honest with you. I do think she's completely misguided and absolutely desperate not to be alone, and she's lashing out. She's nasty. Don't get me wrong, and she plays horrible.
She's not Jack the Ripper. She didn't poison anyone with a curry. You know what I mean? She's a horrible, horrible person.
Yeah, she does nasty things. Yeah, but I actually found her character to be quite layered. She wasn't the queen from Snow White by any means. I thought she kind of recognised her own villainy at many points in this film, and I thought, well, it's kind of a well drawn character. In 75 minutes, you get an awful lot of characters, and in the first 10 minutes, you've met all of them. And as you say, the affair at the heart of this thing is given much more dramatic punch, because every single character in this film knows about the affair, whether it's Liz's mum, Liz's nurse, Liz's maid, everyone. Liz herself knows about it. She just doesn't want to believe it. The husband and Honor obviously know about it. It's incredibly deep and really well acted, really well written. And the great thing is that the writing, you know, characters don't talk about, oh, isn't it awful that blah, blah, blah is having an affair? Isn't it painful that so don't look that way because they're kissing at the moment? The whole script is written visually. So it'll be a character walking down the stairs and seeing it and flinching away, and, you know, a maid walking into a room and seeing them in an embrace and sort of, you know, shuddering in embarrassment about it. It's a really well-written script. And I've read so many reviews of this film in the past couple of weeks, and I'm thoroughly disappointed with everyone who's reviewed this thing online, because I think it's a far deeper, far perfect, a very well crafted film. I think people just haven't given it the credit it deserves. I think it's a really, really bloody good film.
Absolutely, yeah, no, totally, it is. I've got to agree with that. It looks great for starters.
Yeah,
you know, the some of the shots, and we get a real proper. And I mean, you guys will know just as much as I do. We get a real proper Hitchcock shot as well in this film as well, which I was watching Francis Searle go, and I'm just going, oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, he's done it. Oh, he's nailed it. And I was just so happy that he had done it. Unfortunately, we can't talk about it because it's spoilers. And it was beautiful. But it was also, it's the fact that this is a real situation, right? This isn't Anne Boleyn getting tarted up to be painted, right? You know, this is not that. Okay. This is a real life dilemma of a bloke cheating on his missus with her sister-in-law. And but as you say, the beautiful thing that I adored is the secret, right? It's the secret, and everyone's keeping it. But it's not, as you say, like, look, there's a wonderful scene between two maids, if you will, and one's delivering a letter.
It's a great scene, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not, and they're speaking in hushed tones, but it's not a secret. And they're saying, right, well, what's in a letter? What do I need to do? What should happen here? And of course, the mistress of the house suddenly walks in, and it's sort of like, okay, we're busted, but She knows why we're busted. We know she knows. And they just freely admit it and go, right, here's why. And it was just, what? Do you know what? The word I'm going to use over and over again, I think, is refreshing. This is such a refreshing movie again for Hammer. And I'm so glad that we're back to something like this that can make the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end and just go, oh crap, they do know how to make a really, really good thriller.
Definitely.
The best element for me is the kind of the double back, though. The layered nature of the film is that Liz does know. She knows the whole way through. She pieces together an ironclad case like Poirot or Agatha Christie's Miss Marple would do. Yeah. She's putting the pieces of evidence into place to prove that her theory about the fact that her husband is having an affair with her sister-in-law is absolutely 100% true. And you watch her piece together the evidence in front of your eyes as you watch through your fingers, thinking, this is very, very awkward. Because, as you say, everyone, the hired help know, the sort of the well-to-do doctors know, the other members of the family know. We all know that they know, but we also know as a viewer that Liz knows, and they all think she's totally, sort of naive or innocent, whatever you want to say. And it's that sort of unfurling or piecing together of the case that is the sort of the heart of this film that builds up to the point when the two women sort of meet and have to present the facts that are on the table, which is the sort of the beating heart of this film. And that first 45 minutes are absolutely racked with tension, but tension in absolutely the right cinematic sense. Yeah. It's I double down on what Adam said. The reviews that I've read and the synopses and the people who've contributed to presenting an image of this film in our day and age, I don't know where they're coming from, because this film is absolutely tremendous.
The thing is, we're all very different people, and we have reviewed films that I expected, you to love. Some of you didn't, and you've reviewed films that, you really liked and I wasn't so keen on. It's not like we're coming at this having agreed on somehow promoting this film. We're all very disparate in our opinions anyway, and we have different sensibilities. So for all of us to have come together on this, it's a Celia moment. I have to say, it's a very unexpected, like, oh my God, guys, what did you think of the Rossiter case? And we were all kind of like, this is amazing. And as you say, Ben, the tension that goes through the first 45 minutes, because let me just quickly get something out of the way. If you read a description of this film on the internet, it's basically two sisters, or sisters-in-law, however you want to cut it, are in love with the same man. One of the sisters dies. A mystery ensues. That's kind of the banner headline for this film. That doesn't happen until quite near the end. The meat of this film is, like you say, the first 45 minutes is the cranking up. It's like charging up a dynamo, because you don't realise what's happening. It's like you're storing up all this energy and you're pushing it down, and pushing it down. And when this event happens, it's like it just suddenly explodes into all these different directions. Because it could be him, it could be her, it could be this, it could be that. You know who's done it. But because you see it happen, but the joy of this film is that it's kind of like, Christ, how's this going to affect that person? How's this going to affect her? Is so and so going to say something? Is so and so going to say something? And all of a sudden, all of these little jars that have been screwed down because they knew about the affair just all have their lids blown off, and they're all kind of like, oh God of Christ, finally, I better say something about it. It's like a soap opera to begin with. But it turns into this thriller in Act 3, and it's a real surprise. It's a brilliant film. It's like opening Pandora's box, at 3/4 of the way through, and go, and all of a sudden you realise that those scenes in the pub, the scene with the doctor, all those drinks they had at the party, the gift, the thing, the opinions, that everything. Your mind boggles at how intricately you've been led along and everything's been set up. It's a bloody brilliant film. Yeah.
There are so many details, though. Like you said, with the gift, there's a moment where you have Mrs. Rossiter having one of the maids actually look through the sideboard for a gift, and she actually sends. She knows exactly what's in there, and she knows that it's not the thing she's asking for, but she wants to make sure that the thing that she knows is in there is there, and she knows exactly what's going on, and she's got exactly the right sort of play on it.
That reminded me of Love Actually. Do you remember when Emma Thompson sets?
Yeah,
She's got like that. Alan Rickman buys the gift and she knows about it and she's waiting for it to be given to her, and then she kind of says, "Oh, where's my thing?" and he gives her something different, and you just see in her eyes straight away, God, I know everything, and I wish I didn't know everything. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's one thing that really sticks out, and nobody's mentioned it, and I've got to, because it is the one thing that really does ruin this movie to a certain extent, where you think, what are you doing? Why is this happening? And it is when they all decide to have a sing-song around the piano and sing Bar Bar Black Sheep.
you can
Bar
go
Bar
to
Black
hell.
Sheep.
Oh my God.
I kind of found that charming.
Did you?
Of course you did. Of course you did.
I just thought it was. Did you not feel the desperation in the room? Right. It was just that she was wanting this. I mean, this farcical nature of her being in the dark in front of all these people who know what she's going through. She knows what she's going through. She's been lying the entire time. Her husband's been lying. Her sister-in-law's been lying, and yet she just wants that slither of happiness with her mates to have a drink and have a sing-song. I thought it was just like a little beacon for her, and so I didn't mind it at all.
Black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 pence more. 1 for the master and 1 for the dame, none for the little boy that cries down the lane.
But what I think really needs pointing out is that, again, I hope you guys agree with me, but there's not a weak link in this cast. This cast is absolutely wonderful.
Out of this world.
Yeah, it's every single member of it. And I don't think we've had that in a Hammer film so far. Every single member was perfectly cast. They acted their parts off, and they did it so well. I've got to say though, my personal favourite is Frederick Lester, who plays Sir James. I thought he was wonderful. I mean, he has to deal with everything, right? He has to deal with the husband. He has to deal with the wife. He has to deal with the sister. He has to deal with the murder. He has to deal with the police. He has to deal with, and he has to deal with the pub. He has to deal with absolutely everything. He's all encompassing. He is the glue that holds all this entire film together. You watch every single important scene of this film, and he is the glue for every single scene. And he was electric. But it does not take away from it that this cast is superlative. It's wonderful. I loved it.
There's a glorious moment where he actually, you can tell he's putting it together, because he shows Liz Rossiter the photo of her husband, and you can see in his eyes that he's actually put it together and knows exactly where Peter is. He's seen Peter in the pub as he's been leaving. It's fantastic. He's
brilliant. Yeah,
he is superb. Yeah.
I have to say, no, Kev, I do love that scene, because he points at the picture, because Liz is in the bed and she can't see the picture, and he goes, "Is this your husband?" And she goes, "Show me." It's like, woman, it's on your bedside table. You know that's a picture of your husband. What are you doing?
I know. Yeah.
You should go, yes, that's my bloke.
Right, well, we've talked about the cast, but I've just realised that Ben never actually got a word in edgeways as far as his 3-point plan. So, Ben, what is your 3-point plan that proves that Liz and Honor are sister-in-laws? You're wrong. Of course, but never mind. Go on, you can try it. Come on,
Kev,
prove it.
I've been wrong about many things in my life, but I'm absolutely not wrong about this. The first thing, right, to point out is that one of my co-hosts, the well-revered film reviewer, has also already made the actual wrong assumption that the lady of the Rossiter house is Liz's mother, which is in fact wrong. She's Peter's mother, and that is proven several times in the script. My first point of argument would be, if indeed that Liz and Honor were sisters, why does one sister live in the big mansion and the other one live down the road in the cottage? And that might be a slightly tenuous. You might think that's quite tenuous, Ben. That's not really proof. The second point would be that Honor refers to the people in the mansion as them and the damn patronising and smug group, the lot of them. So she's not really referring to them as her own family. She's referring to them as outsiders, and they are, because she's only related to them by her husband who has died. Her husband, Christopher, was Peter's brother. The third and most sort of substantial and inarguable point, though, is that she is Honor Rossiter and Liz is Liz Rossiter. They're both married. How can they both have the same surname if they're married to different men?
Where does it say she's Honor Rossiter?
It's mentioned in the dialogue of the film. She's referred to as Honor Rossiter.
Yeah, and it's confirmed by the mother later on when she talks about Christopher as well as being her dead son. So there is no way that Honor and Liz can be sisters. They are
fair enough.
Sisters-in-law.
They're related solely by marriage.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it was down south. Your mum and your dad.
It's just one big happy family.
Fair enough. Well, in which case, people, if you're looking at the descriptions online, the descriptions are wrong. The descriptions online as well are like telling you a vastly inferior synopsis of the film, and also all the descriptions and reviews online are wrong. So I would not bother looking online for this film at all in any way.
Well said, Adam.
Yeah, look for a good family drama with a crime element to it. That's literally all you need to know about this film.
What I would say, if I'm allowed the floor just for 1 minute more in relation to what we've talked about, is we've mentioned the conclusion in passing. Oh no, that's not the conclusion. It's the pinnacle scene. And films from this era, they take a lot to shock me. And in the scene where Honor meets Liz for their sort of showdown, things are said and things are done that kind of took my breath away.
Yeah,
and, especially the language used.
The language used,
the language used is kind of like whoa,
and the resulting actions are they're breathtaking. I was absolutely gripped, and I thought, wow, this film, that's excellent.
There are two scenes in this film for me personally that either had me on the edge of my seat or and I don't mean cliched, I mean literally sort of biting my fingers. One was the scene you were just referring to, and then the one, again, no spoilers, but right at the very end of the film, because the admission of what has happened and what is going to happen after the credits roll. I mean, it was heartbreaking, it was suspenseful, it was elation, it was joy, but it was also devastating, and it was everything all in one. It was those two scenes were a perfect bundle of gold.
All there in one line as well.
Totally agree.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I can't disagree with that at all. But also is the fact that it was right. We got surprised by Death in High Heels. We got surprised by Celia, right? This one is a monumental landslide of a surprise. Okay, it took my breath away. And to echo what you said, Adam, don't listen to anyone else online. They have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to this film. All right, jeez.
Yeah. This is a drama in which events build and build and build until they explode, and then you get this excruciating, fascinating fallout afterwards. And what I loved about the way this film finished is that it didn't end on, let's say, a happy ending. It ended on an adult ending, I think. This is the kind of film that I would write if I wanted to make something that was more literary and more tragic and more, poetic, and it's not tied up with a bow and sent off on its way. You actually, like, the end credits roll and you go, God, I hope that person's all right. God, I and you're trying to imagine the fates that happened after this. I mean, it's, what, this is 1951, 75-minute exclusive second feature film starring no one I've ever heard of, and I was like so engaged. This is just brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a fantastic film. So I can't say enough about it.
No, I just to quickly reiterate that if you watch this film and think, oh, 5 minutes in, I've seen films, this is definitely a film where X sends Y to the gallows, or such and such is pretending to do X, or such and such is going to turn up and do Y to steal Z. You're wrong on every count, because it's a much more the word you used, Adam, was adult. This is it's realistic for a film that still has a vaguely fantastical element to it. It's you feel the human emotions are at the core of the film the whole way through, and the end of the film, for all I feel, genuinely that the last 10 minutes are the weakest part of the film, simply because that the climax occurs sort of 15 minutes before the end, and you kind of think it's peaked now and it's not going to reach that again. It's still, I applaud the fact that it doesn't go for a Hollywood, in inverted commas, ending. It plays it out to something slightly more plodding, or, as I say, realistic. But no, it doesn't do what anyone expects it to do.
It's authentic.
That's
the way it felt to me.
Yeah.
It was more authentic. It didn't say this is a film, so it has to end a certain way.
Absolutely.
It said this is like the characters of these people. This has happened. It can't end neatly, and that's the perfect thing about the ending. Yeah. It's like it was like there's what do you do? There's going to be no piece of evidence that turns up that completely exonerates you and you and you and you and you. Everyone is affected by this. Even the doctor that turned up at the beginning is haunted by what he's seen, and the husband is haunted by what he's done, and the survivor of that scene between the two sisters is God knows what's going to happen. It was just, the whole thing was just like nuclear fallout, and it's going to be a very long time before any of that is settled properly.
There was a little echo for me when I was watching this of a film that we all rated quite low, which was Simon Cherry. We had, again, another incident of another invalid in a bed, and a mystery going on around it. Right? Okay. So we had that, and that did it one way. This did it another way, and personally for me, this was. Exactly, Kev. This was a much better way of doing it. I just got echoes of that film in this, and it was like, okay, we tried it that way with the lowly, solitary detective working out, as you say, saying this person's innocent, this person's innocent, this person's guilty, that kind of thing. This didn't happen in this, and it was all the better for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the way that it finishes is just a perfect conundrum. It's like a Philip K. Dick ending, where you are left with
that's a great
nice
and kind of a proposition that you've got no winnable goal. There's nothing really going to be a great place to finish. So seeing as though we've got to that point where it's a no winnable goal, shall we try and wrap this up, lads? And
I think so.
Absolutely.
Try and rate it. Good luck with this. Adam, do you want to go first out of 10?
Out of 10. I'm going to give this my first 10.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like, and to be honest, my point was, I watched a film last week called The Bigamist. It was from 1953, and all the way through I was thinking, this is a 4 out of 5. This is a 4 out of 5. This is a 4 out of 5. And afterwards, I sat there and thought, why is it a 4 out of 5 and not a 5 out of 5? And I sat there and thought about it, and actually couldn't find a reason for it not to be a perfect film, one I would recommend heartily. And it's the same thing with the Rossiter Case. because I think it's a 75-minute exclusive film, just a film that most people would overlook. But what's wrong with it? I don't understand how you can mark it down. It's dramatic, it's engaging, there's not a bad performance in it, it's well directed, it's gorgeous to look at, and it does a bloody fantastic job of telling a human story. And I think it's been totally missold as a murder mystery from all the blurbs you see online and stuff. It's not that at all. It's just a really good drama. So yeah, I can't honestly, in my heart of hearts, find a fault with it. This is my first 10 out of 10 for The House of Hammer, the Rossiter Case. It's absolutely fantastic.
Get that, diary.
Get you, diary.
Yeah.
Get you, diary.
Ben.
Sorry, Ben.
Poor Ben.
That's okay. There are a couple of things to say. First of all, what I would remark on is, what are we, 21 films, I think, in? And how many of them have been the trials and tribulations of posh people? Most of them so far. Partially to do, I suspect, with the filming locations. But that aside, I've been to many football games where my beloved team has netted a goal against the run of play, and then the sort of 90 seconds later has somehow majestically netted another one. So to follow up on Adam's 10, I'm going to give it a 10 as well. Because, I can't really add a great deal to what Adam said. This is, and I'm not saying this just for effect, this is the first film we've watched so far that I was really, really keen to watch a second time. I enjoyed Celia, but when you have to go through a film and make the notes again, it's always a little bit of a labour on. I was gagging to watch this again. I enjoyed every second of this film, and I enjoyed every second of it the second time round, and I could watch it again right now. It's superbly acted. It's superbly crafted. It has a gut punch sort of finale or climax. I have slight, as I mentioned before, a slight sort of disagreement with the sort of last 10-15 minutes, but almost eerily. And me and Adam have not, as you two know, we have not spoken about this film until now.
Nope.
What he said about thinking about what, because I came into this thinking I'm going to give this a 9, and then I thought, as Adam was talking, I was thinking, oh, why the hell am I giving it a 9? Because why not give it a 10? You're not going to lose any face in comparison to other films if you give it a 10. So no, I'm giving it a 10. It's yes, there's the odd thing you can improve on, but there aren't any films out there you can't honestly say that for. So no, it's a 10 out of 10. Everyone should see this film.
Wow. Okay, Smokey, 1.
If you do, I'm going to give it 19 out of 10.
Yeah.
I did like the caveat before Adam started of sort of saying this is his first 10 out of 10 when he gave River Patrol a 16 out of 10. So he is factually correct.
He
So,
is,
Well,
yeah.
I'm not lying then, am I?
You're not lying at all. This is wonderful. What a fantastic film. I remember we behind the curtain for the listeners, we have the schedule coming up, obviously, for knowing who's going to be hosting what.
Yeah.
And when I saw this was going to be mine, I was like, okay. And so I looked and I read into it. Sorry, Adam, the incorrect synopsis online. I read into that, and I was like, oh, hello, this is good. We can sink our teeth into this one a little bit more than we have done over the last few episodes. And I wasn't disappointed. What a cracking film. What a cracking movie. Hammer, let's just put this out right on Front Street. Hammer are back on track with this film. And we said in the last episode, I think it was yourself, Adam, we have been gagging.
We need a bang.
Gagging for an absolute banger of a Hammer movie.
Smokey, can I just interject for a second and say, I watch these films quite often with my wife.
Sure.
She comes at these things completely objectively. She could not believe the upturn in quality between this and the last film we watched.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's like two different studios, isn't it? It's ridiculous, the change around between the two films. And there's literally 2 months between the filming dates.
I mean, it's mad, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of along the lines of, okay, we've left Oakley Court, we've left We've left High Hazel pretending to be in a boat that's actually in a basement in Oakley Court somewhere, and it's just sort of like we found a new country house now. Let's make something really dark and sinister, okay? And it's beautiful. However, I am more sparing with my 10s than you guys are, so I can't give it a 10, but I am going to give it a 9. It's stupendously good, and as I said earlier, the acting performances are wonderful. The tension building in that opening 30-40 minutes, and also we haven't really mentioned, maybe said the word a couple of times, but a mystery whodunit. No, it's a mystery. I know who done it, but how the hell are they going to get away with it? And it's and that was so refreshing. And again, we got treated like adults. We got rewarded with an adult film, and it felt lovely. And I'm going to go with Ben on this one. I would not hesitate to put this on right now with you guys. If you say, when we stop, we press stop, you say, do you want to watch it again? I'll be, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll put it on. Why the hell not? Fantastic film. Kevin?
Well, it's ironic that everybody's banged on about it being adult, and yet this was one of the early Hammers to be rated an A, which meant all could see it, which is quite an odd one. But yeah, I would definitely give it, I won't give it a 10 because it's not a solid 10 because of Bar Bar Black Sheep, so I will give it a 9. The music bit is just unwanted padding, if you like, so that it fits into whatever sort of program they were like distributing it to. But other than that, yeah, it is absolutely perfect. Walter Jimmy Harvey again on photography, doing a damn bang up job. Francis Searle, his direction has never been so good.
Frank Spencer.
Yeah, Frank Spencer. The music is great. It's all the pieces are in place, and these guys have really come through the ranks, and they've been learning the craft on the job, and you can tell straight away because this is definitely the best looking and best sounding film we've had so far. I don't know whether it's a change of format and change of place, that's probably triggered this.
Do you wonder, Kev, two things? One, because you think the new location maybe had slightly more room because we talked a lot about the restricted.
Yeah.
Do you not think as well the fact that the screenplay lent itself more to being filmed as a play, and that maybe lent itself to Francis Searle's strengths?
Yeah,
because there's very little sort of dynamic action required from a director. It's just picking out the drama on, because I'd wondered about that as well.
Yeah,
because it did feel very different to the last film he directed, and I think it's all dependent on what is actually happening in front of him. I know that sounds a bit bizarre in terms of looking at a director, but
no,
I think
you're right.
the action was there to be picked out as opposed to having to force it as a director.
Yeah,
because effectively this whole film could have been filmed in 3 rooms.
I reckon
easily.
Lady Craved Excitement was every single room or set that thing had felt like it had been, this is all we've got, use it.
Yeah,
this is all we've got, use it.
Absolutely.
It felt forced.
The Rossiter Case, it felt like you were actually in their home. You were actually walking down the lane with them. You were actually in the pub that they go. This is the first real pub, as you say, the first real looking pub we've seen in a Hammer film yet. It felt like, Honor's Cottage. It felt like Hammer had given a about the way, the places that the story was set in.
Yeah,
I think this is a perfect film. I'm glad you agree, Ben. I'm not saying anything about your opinions, guys. A 9 is fantastic.
I was going to say,
of course
it's pretty good.
A 9 is a brilliant score. I honestly can't find anything wrong with this, and I'm not. The thing is, I find myself looking for faults and going, "Why am I looking for faults? I really enjoyed it. Why am I not giving this a 10?" And that's why it's a 10.
No, I get it. I do.
Trying to find reasons for it not to be perfect, and it's just perfect.
You've got to understand that giving it a 9, it's not like picking. There is not a singular fault that I can really hurl at like a dart overboard.
That's not the point I was making.
Yeah, exactly. And I could have given it a 9 as well. I was on the. I know exactly what you mean, mate. It's just on
that line for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be another one coming up soon, or hopefully, that will push me into saying that there's a 10. But
on that day, I'll definitely give it a 9 just to even it up.
Yeah, me too.
Good man. Well, I don't trust you guys after River Patrol
So
anyway.
everyone
so
put Smokey first from now.
Thank you. So
It's like play your cards right. Oh, Smokey gives it a 10. I'm going to give it a 2.
Higher or lower? Smokey, I would never ever say you should feel differently about a score, about a film. Never. No. That's not what I was saying at all. I'm just saying.
No. I understand.
Personally, for me, I've heard you know what you think of the film, and
sure.
I'm sorry you've marked it down, Kev, because of that brief scene. Which they sing
it's horrible.
It is bad. No, it is bad though, mate.
It's a clunker.
You should have seen my wife's face at that point.
You see the subtext. The subtext in that scene is wonderful. That's why I will not mark it down for that scene at all. But let me just put it this way, right? The Rossiter Case, regardless of what I've rated it, because I've rated it the same as Celia, the Rossiter Case is not only the best Hammer film we've watched this year, it's the best Hammer film we've watched so far.
Well, if that doesn't make you want to watch it, I don't know what will. An absolutely pile-driving corker of a film. Please get it seen, people. Now then, you remember how I mentioned the pub earlier? I said you know how I mentioned the pub earlier? About time. You want a break? Well, during the runtime, we spent quite a hefty time in a lovely saloon. Many drinks are had, and like many movies from around this period, not much care was given to drink driving or seatbelts for that matter. But do you know who does give care to everything he's doing, especially if it includes port or Blu-ray purchases? It's our very own, completely confident composer himself, Mr. Kev Moore.
Without giving you any spoilers, towards the end of the film, Peter decides that the best place for him to avoid all the dramatics at home is the quaint country pub we've all fallen in love with the first time we saw it. There he can drink all the whiskey the place has to offer, and then let Stanley Baker look after his snazzy roadster.
Large whiskey.
There's no more whiskey, I'm sorry.
Oh, come on, Pete.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rossiter, but there it is. You driving tonight, son?
You got the car, sir? What? Car?
As Adam's already mentioned, the Rossiter Case has a certain realism to it. This extends to the subject of drinking under the influence. If Peter was the lead character in any other of too many movies to mention, he would simply barrel home, barely able to see, and there would be no consequence. Not so with this one, thank you. Originally, I thought this was quite forward-thinking for 1951, but how wrong I was. 1872, in Britain, a full 24 years before a British car was ever on the road, it had already become an offence to be drunk while in charge of carriages, horses, steam engines, and cattle? Okay. Depending on your circumstances, this could see you serve time with or without hard labour for a month. This sentence would increase to 4 months in 1925 when driving any mechanically propelled vehicles whilst, and I quote, under the influence of drink or a drug to such an extent as to be incapable of having proper control of the vehicle, was then added to the list. So during the time of the Rossiter Case, it was indeed an offence, and our trusty landlord and Stanley Baker were doing the right thing. It wouldn't be until the updating of the Marples Act of 1967, when the use of the roadside breathalyzer was given royal assent, that there was any legal limit introduced at all. Of course, there were protests from the usual crowd claiming it was an infringement on their civil liberties, and publicans were threatening that they would go bankrupt. We all know they didn't. There's still 5 times more pubs in Britain today than there are churches. It would be just under a century before the offence of causing death by driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs would come into being. proving once again that the law is an ass. As it stands, the current legal blood alcohol limits in England and Wales are among the most lenient. I say England and Wales because Scotland, like the rest of Europe, reckons a pint is more than enough. North America has the same unfortunately relaxed attitude if you're found driving under the influence, but at least there you have to do some kind of little dance at the side of the road as well. Possibly the most lenient to have a drink driving law of any kind is in the tax haven of the Cayman Islands. It's a place smaller than Sheffield where nearly everyone has 2 cars. I'm not sure whether they just have a spare in case one gets totaled on a Saturday night, or because they have more hurricanes there than anywhere else in the world. Then there's simply no roads to drive on anyway. There's some countries where it's illegal to drink altogether, so the drink drive laws are fairly straightforward. But it's encouraging to see more are adopting the sensible road out of hell and introducing a zero-tolerance approach to the subject. And there's still quite a few surprises to be found on that list too. So let's all raise a glass of lemonade to the likes of Belarus, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Pakistan, Romania, Morocco, Paraguay, and many, many more.
No car? No whiskey? Go home. Hop outside, Joe, and see if he's got his car. If he has, shove it round the stable. Okay, John. Put me a large whiskey. There's no more. Why don't you go home now, sir? Why don't I go home? Why don't I?
Thank you, Kevy. Beautiful as always, and furthermore convincing me to never get behind the wheel. Before we leave you, it's that time once again to return to the mailbag. Yes, we've had another letter from some poor unfortunate soul wishing for guidance, and then send it to a movie podcast. Dear House of Hammer, that's us. I don't wish to give my name, but suffice it to say I'm in a real pickle, and I think only you can help me. Really? Alright. I work in a rather large house, and the lord of said house may be up to no good behind the wife's back. In fact, there's no maybe about it, he is, and with her sister-in-law no less. I'm loyal to both my lord and my lady, but this is tearing me apart. What should I do? Is there actually anything I can do? Help me, House of Hammer. You're my only hope. Ooh, my word. Well, this is tricky to say the least. I mean, the first thing that springs to mind is talking to some like-minded people you may know. I mean, they may be able to help you. However, something tells me that this has a natural or rather unnatural conclusion. When it happens, it may be with a whimper or it may be rather cataclysmic. Either way, I think you're going to find out pretty damn soon which it's going to be. I really hope that helps. Well, unfortunately, my friends, we come to the end of the episode, and this particular room of the tour. Please check out the film and tell us what you think. Next time, we will bring you tales of horse riding, more invalidity, and the world's worst dating service, and eventually we may talk about a film too. In the meantime, if you wish to find us, we are on Twitter and Instagram at HouseHammerPod. Or should you wish to email us, you can do so at scream@houseofhammerpodcast.com. So, from me, Smokey.
From me, Ben Tillison.
From me, Kev Moore.
From me, Adam Roach.
Thank you very much for joining us. Be excellent to each other, and we will see you very, very soon, here at the House of Hammer.